Imagine walking into a car dealership, and the salesperson walks you to the most expensive model on the floor first. They show you every premium feature, let you sit in the leather seat, feel the quality. Then they move you to a slightly less expensive model, priced at $55,000. Without that first exposure, $55,000 might have felt like a stretch. But after seeing $80,000 first, $55,000 somehow feels reasonable, even like a good deal. Your brain has been anchored, and every subsequent judgment you make is now filtered through that first number you encountered. This is the anchoring effect, one of the most powerful and pervasive cognitive biases in behavioral economics, and it is silently influencing every significant financial decision you make. The anchoring effect was first formally documented by Nobel Prize-winning psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in a landmark series of experiments in the 1970s. In one of their most famous demonstrations, researchers spun a wheel of fortune rigged to land on either 10 or 65. They then asked participants to estimate how many African countries were members of the United Nations. Participants who saw the number 65 gave dramatically higher estimates than those who had seen 10. A completely arbitrary number, entirely unrelated to the actual question, significantly shifted the judgments of intelligent adults. The first number they encountered had become a cognitive anchor that distorted everything that followed, even when they knew the wheel result was random. What this research reveals is both elegantly simple and profoundly important for your financial life. When we need to make numerical estimates or judgments about value, the first number we encounter creates a reference point that disproportionately shapes all subsequent thinking. The anchor does not just nudge our thinking, it reshapes what we perceive as reasonable, fair, or worth paying. And it operates below conscious awareness, which makes it particularly dangerous. In the financial world, every major transaction has an anchor, and that anchor was almost always set by someone whose interests oppose yours. When you receive a salary offer, the employer's HR department carefully calculated that opening number to anchor the entire conversation in their favor. When you see a property listing price, the seller's agent set that number strategically. When a product shows a crossed-out original price next to a sale price, the retailer designed that display specifically to make the sale price feel like a bargain relative to the anchor they just handed you. When a service provider sends you an initial quote, that first number is rarely their genuine starting point. It is an anchor. The question is never whether anchoring is happening in your financial life. It is always happening. The question is whether you recognize the mechanism and have a system to protect your interests against it. Real estate provides some of the most well-documented evidence of anchoring's power. Studies consistently show that listing prices, even when set artificially high, significantly influence final sale prices. Buyers unconsciously negotiate against the anchor, treating the listing price as the relevant reference point rather than independently calculated fair market value. In one study, real estate agents shown the same property, but given different listing prices, produced significantly different property value estimates, despite their professional training and market expertise. The anchor shaped the judgment of experts. It will absolutely shape yours unless you intervene deliberately. In salary negotiations, anchoring effects are equally powerful and well documented. Research from Columbia University and other institutions shows that candidates who make the first offer in salary negotiations tend to achieve final compensation significantly closer to their target. Why? Because they set the anchor. The entire conversation calibrates around whatever number was placed on the table first. Candidates who hear a high initial offer from an employer, even when they recognize it may be inflated, consistently walk away with higher final salaries than candidates who hear a low initial offer, because each group anchors their expectations and counteroffers to whatever starting number they received. In personal investing, Anchoring manifests as what behavioral economists call the disposition effect. When you buy a stock at $100 and it falls to $60, the $100 price becomes your psychological anchor. You refuse to sell at $60, not because of rational analysis, suggesting a recovery is probable, but because the current price feels like a loss against your anchor. The genuinely rational question in that moment is simple. If you did not already own this stock, would you buy it today at 60? If the answer is no, your anchor is the only thing keeping you holding it. This disposition effect causes investors to hold falling assets far longer than is rational, while selling rising assets far too early because gains feel satisfying relative to the original anchor. Research suggests this bias costs retail investors a meaningful percentage of potential annual returns. The counter-anchoring toolkit has 5 strategies that give you real protection. The first is pre-establishing your own anchor before any negotiation or major purchase. This is the single most powerful thing you can do. Before entering salary negotiations, research market rates for your specific role, experience level, and geographic market through at least 3 independent sources. Before discussing a purchase price for an asset, independently calculate your estimate of fair value using comparable data. Before any contract discussion, write down in advance your ideal outcome and your absolute walkaway point. When you enter a negotiation already holding your own well-researched anchor, external anchors have dramatically less power to distort your judgment. The second strategy is radical reframing. When you encounter an external anchor, practice a mental reset. If I had never seen that number, what would I estimate this is worth based solely on what I know independently? This conscious reset weakens the anchor's grip and forces your brain to engage its own analytical capacity rather than merely adjusting from the anchor it was handed. The third strategy is making counteroffers far from the original anchor. When negotiations have been anchored high, the instinctive response is to counter just below that number, which still plays on the seller's frame. Research shows that introducing a dramatically different anchor through a counteroffer, reflecting your independent valuation, is more effective at shifting the negotiation's psychological center of gravity to your advantage. The fourth strategy is the time buffer. Anchors lose potency when you create distance between first anchor exposure and your decision. When you receive a salary offer, ask for 24 hours to consider. When you see a product price that triggers the urge to buy, wait 72 hours. During that time, the initial anchor fades as a reference point, and your independent judgment becomes more accessible. The fifth strategy is information saturation. The more independent data points you have about actual value, the less any single anchor can skew your perception. Before any major financial transaction, deliberately collect 3 to 5 independent reference points from different sources and perspectives. Each additional data point dilutes the anchoring effect of any single number you encountered. Every day, in every transaction and financial conversation you enter, anchors have been placed by professionals who understand exactly how human cognition works. The only genuine protection is the same understanding, applied deliberately on your side of every table. Know how anchors work. Set your own anchor first, whenever possible. Counter with research, not adjustments to their frame. Use time to weaken anchors you did not see coming. The outcome of financial negotiations across your entire life is substantially shaped by who controls the anchor. Make sure that person is you.